Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Three is Greater Than Two podcast, where three is always greater than two. And today we're starting off this podcast with a banger, an absolute banger, where we talk about the journey I had as a basketball player. Now, I did not have the average journey that, a player has, if that sounds correct, because I feel like whenever you don't play ever through middle school and even your first and second year of high school, you're either gonna quit or you're just gonna not play. Like, if you're not gonna play, you're just not gonna play. But I think mine's a little different because I was able to transition into directly actually from not getting any minutes to getting significant minutes. It wasn't like a each year I got more and more points or more and more minutes, as actually kind of the opposite, where each year I started off getting no minutes and the next year I might get some and then I wouldn't get any minutes the next year. So it was just a big journey that I'm pretty much proud of, but I think it's actually kind of funny once you break it down as to how far I came, because there's some very low lights in my career as a basketball player. So to start it all off, my family moved here to Kentucky from California, and I started my career as an upward basketball player. Now, if you're familiar with upward, you know that that is the highest level of competition you can play. Now, you're surrounding yourself by real competition. They definitely keep the score, and the coaches are actually paid thousands of dollars to coach at upward. So I was basically started off with the highest level competition. I was surrounding myself with future LeBrons and Michael Jordans. So, I got that off the bat, and I started off, first, second, third grade, the greatest player on my team. So, that was a huge role to take upon myself as an upward basketball player, because sometimes, I always had to remember the Bible verse in order to be a good leader, and I always had to get that effort star and that green Bible verse star. So, that's a great way to start off. In third grade, actually, my dad was the coach, and him being a coach, we went straight from living in like a trailer house, living in a mansion because of the upward bonus. But I was the best player on the team. Like, it wasn't even close. So I was going like, oh, this is my year. This is my year to play. We won the first game by like 20 because it's the first year keeping score. So we won the first game by 20, and I was like, oh, it's about to be a good year. And then we went on to lose the last 9 games by like 50 each. I was sad at first, but losing can be fun too if you're putting up 30 a game when you're in third grade. It doesn't get fun when you move on, but like third grade, you're like, come on, I just lost this game by 50, but at least I had 30 points. So that's how I started off in third grade. Fourth grade, my dad, or not my dad, but we were able to do some like finagling. Some players joined late, and we were able to get like a really good team. I don't know why I'm spending much time spent on Upward, but Upward is such a big part of my life, my first few years growing up. And you can really tell once I get to middle school ball because I had no clue what I was doing playing against real talent. Like in fifth grade you play with sixth, seventh, and at the time sixth and seventh graders. So it was normally fifth and sixth, but they let some seventh graders play. And I got eaten up and Upward by sixth and seventh graders. Like I had no like real gauge on how good players could be. So like I averaged like 2 points a game in fifth grade and upward, which is the biggest waste of time ever. Because I already knew all the Bible verses. I didn't know like I knew it was like to have like good sportsmanship and all this. I was just ready to play real basketball, and I got whopped. So I started off fifth grade, 2 points per game, but I was like, oh, it's gonna be different when I go to play school ball because I'll be playing with people that are actually in my grade. So whenever I tried out for my school team, I had no clue what I was doing because I was like, they're doing like drills and shooting drills and upward. We just did like 3-man weave and layup lines, and that's all we did. So I knew like no different life other than the upward basketball team. But luckily, I made the team. Like I thought I might make the team, but I'm really glad I did because I feel like if I did, I probably would have given up on basketball at that point because I was my first year at that school, and I had never played real basketball before, so it was a good experience for me. that I made the team, but I was like the third, but I was the third worst player on the team, like by far. Like the only thing I remember about sixth grade is the conversations me and the three worst players had at the end of the bench where we just were goofing off the entire game. Now, even as a bench player, I almost got a technical one game because we were down by like 20. The refs were garbage. We were like at this church, and I was like, the ref was, we were shooting the free throws, and the ref was standing in front of me and my three friends at the end of the bench who just didn't care. And I was like, how much money do you think they paid the refs this game? And the ref turns around and looks at me, and he's like, what'd you just say? And I was like, nothing, it was him. It was him, it was him, it wasn't me. And the coach looks down the line, and he's like, who said that? And I was like, I don't know, I was talking about the Super Bowl. Because, that's the greatest excuse ever. So that was actually the only time the ref actually acknowledged me in a game because we all know I wasn't getting in to get any fouls or get to the free throw line or anything. In seventh grade, though, I improved some. I was probably the best shooter on the team in seventh grade. But that wasn't saying much because I was by far the weakest kid and I couldn't play defense and I couldn't dribble. So I was just there like above average shooter for seventh grade. But the coach isn't going to put me in to let it fly in the game. I was just there for the ride. Again, actually. In seventh grade, I got probably a total of 10 real time minutes in a game. And that's when I actually like thought about quitting basketball in a way because I was like, this is just not fun for me. But my parents talked me into it. So that happened my seventh grade year. And the spring after the basketball season's over, I went and played in this. It was called KBA, which is basically like a rec league for kids who aren't good enough for middle school basketball. So I thought, why not go play this? Because I clearly wasn't good enough to play for middle school. So I was like, I need some more experience or whatever because I wasn't getting any. So I went and played at KBA with a bunch of random people, and I was like at the tryouts actually. I was so nervous because you'd have a line full of kids. It'd be a line full of kids, full court. They have a cone at the free throw line, a cone at half court, and a cone at the other free throw line. We do a dribble move, go to half court, dribble move, go to free throw line, dribble move, and then you finish the layup, and then you come back around, dribble move, dribble move, dribble move, pull up. And I had never done it before, but all these other kids like were experienced at it or whatever, because they were like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do like double hezzy ISO between the legs, pull up from half court and all this stuff. I was like, what are they talking about? So I go up to the guy like, what am I supposed to do? He's like, he told me. So I went up, did like a crossover, did like a slow behind the back, another crossover, finish with my right hand, come up. I'm like, oh, I'm feeling it. So I go like between the legs, go again between the legs, like double behind the back. And I pull up and I'm like, oh, I'm a good shooter. I just gotta cash out this three. Air ball. It probably hit the block. Realistically, it was that short. It probably hit the block, and I was like, every time, like all the kids, you hear the kids laughing, and like I was looking at the coaches like writing on their clipboard. I was like, well, this year isn't gonna get a very good. So I was probably like actually the second overall pick in that draft, not second overall, second round pick out of like 12 rounds. So I was like, because everyone else on my team at the first practice, I was like, there's no way these kids are drafted before me because our team looked so bad. And we actually started off the season 2-13. That was the regular season. There's 15 regular season games. But I wasn't like mad because like I said in third grade, I was averaging like 30 when we went 1-9. I was averaging like 25 when we went 2-13. So when it comes to tournament to play, where like the coach gives us like the speech like, guys, even though we have a good regular season, let's not make this last game embarrassing or something like that. Because it was like we were playing like number one ranked seed because we were the bottom seed. We go in there. I dropped 35 points, and I've never felt more successful as a basketball player as I did then. That was probably the highlight of my career, realistically. I'm just playing. But 35 points for me, I was like shooting, I was driving, like I don't know what I was on, but I was just feeling it. So I dropped 35 points. We go on to the next game. Our team, we're all hitting our shots. We win by like 3 points. I probably had 20 or something. I don't know. Go on to the next game. It was the hardest game yet. We went to overtime. We barely won. And then in the championship game, whenever, like a few minutes ago when I talked about how we got like me and the upward team, we like got a few late guys and whatever. And we had some good players. Well, this team, you're supposed to draft. It's supposed to be completely fair. You're supposed to draft. This team, all the players on the team, they were all late entries, but they were all played for the same AAU team. They just wanted to play this KBA league. I have no clue why. They were undefeated. They beat us by 50 the first game. It wasn't even close. So we went in this game like, oh, there's no way we're winning. All the parents on our team before the game like reported them. They're like, oh, we don't want to play this team. They're cheaters or whatever. But us were like, we already lost by 50. Can't get any worse. We go in. We have every player on our team has the game of their lives. There's kids who've never hit wide open layups before in the layup lines, hitting their layups. We're like, oh, this is our game. We go in and we win by like 20. It wasn't even fair. That was probably the biggest upset ever, realistically. Like, that is the greatest upset of all time. Was that KBA championship in 2014 where this kid who didn't get any 7th grade minutes at all, was the star player of the team. And this kid's dad, who was my coach, his son was also on the team. He went to the same school as me, and his dad was like, you two are going to go up and play varsity basketball together. And I was like, that was the first time whenever I was like, yeah, I want to be a varsity starter. I want to be a real varsity basketball player. So from then on, well, it's actually funny because that kid actually went on. He went to a rival public school where I played them in JV basketball. I probably had this is probably the dirtiest move I've ever given a player. Fast break. I posted him up at the block. Did like a Kobe fake, a Kobe fake post move here. So I was like, I got the ball I was like backing down on the post. I go fake here, and I go like this. That is the dirtiest move I ever had in a basketball game. It was against this one kid who was the co-star with me. But we all know I was better. He was a co-star with me on the KBA championship team, and I was like, yeah, that was the dirtiest move, and no one expected it because I never go in the paint. I still never go in the paint. So, kind of pulled it out of my bag because it's JV basketball, and you can shoot it from half court, no one cares. So after that, I'm kind of feeling myself 7th grade, so I didn't do much to get better in 8th grade. Got a little bit better at shooting. By that point, though, I was known as the shooter. But one time, I thought I was on the shooter, but there was this new kid on our team who wasn't new to school. He just decided to play basketball this year. And this is probably one of the most, not motivating things that, it made me so mad that I wanted to get better. It was a late game situation, and we needed one of our bench players, or one of our starters got fouled out and they were shooting free throws, and we needed one of our bench players to go shoot free throws. And I was like, oh, I'm the guy on the bench. I'm the best shooter. And he chose a new kid over me, and I was like, I took it personal, Michael Jordan, I took it personal. So I went on from there, and became Michael Jordan, as y'all know me today. So I took him out. I slashed all the tires on his mom's car, and he never made it to another basketball game ever again. So that was him. No one ever heard him from ever again. So then we go down to at the end of my 8th grade year, my friend's dad opens this church league. It's not like a church league, but he used it in my church's gym, where he had a bunch of guys throughout the city come and play basketball in this gym. Where we had a draft kind of like KBA, except I did a lot better in this draft, and I was the first overall pick. And I was by far the best player in this league as well. Now, the critique about I'm not flexing by saying I'm the best player in the leagues, because I was not even 6th grade. I was the 12th best player on the team. 7th grade, I was probably the 10th best player on the team. 8th grade, I was probably the 9th best player on the team. I'm making no improvement. This just shows how bad the leagues I'm playing in are, where I own this church league games, drop 30 a night. It's nothing. This team, we won every game. I was playing with kids who looked like they never touched a basketball in their life, and we were just giving other teams buckets. With me being a kid who has zero real experience in a basketball game besides playing when either I'm up 40 or down 40. So instead of playing in these leagues, I could have been getting better, but I was just kind of just building my ego as a bench warmer because like I was like, yeah, even though I'm a bench warmer, I can still give you 40. I can still give a kid who's never played basketball 40. So in this league, we ended up winning the championship. It was easy. I don't think we might have lost 2 or 3 games. I got a technical. It was my first ever technical because I screamed at a ref. I just did whatever I want in this league. I kind of was like, it was like I could just do whatever I want because there's no consequences. My parents didn't even go to the games. They just dropped me off. They didn't care. So I was like, oh, who's gonna get mad at me? I just screamed at the refs. I would just launch balls at the wall. It didn't matter. I just did whatever I want. And I think whenever I did whatever I wanted, I felt more free as a player and I felt more free for my game. Now, if I would have done that this year, maybe I would have averaged 100 and a half. But, I'm not playing in a church league. I'm playing in a real basketball game. Now, when I go into ninth grade, my ninth grade year, I barely got any better as well. I got taller, that helped. But we had a lot more players quit. So I was like eighth man probably. Now the best thing about there's some good ninth graders where some of the best stories come from because one time we were having practice and the coach was like, let's just scrimmage day. And I had legitimately the best practice of my entire life. I dropped 50 points. My coach saw that and he was like, you're starting next game. Next game I get the ball. I'm like, oh, my first ever real start. This is my first ever real start. I go in, turn over the ball 2 times in 2 possessions to start off the game. I get immediately benched, don't play for the rest of the game. So that was how my first ever start went. And also, we were playing it in our rivals. We were playing at our big rival at their gym, and we were down by like 20. Our coach was mad because he went to the school, and they got like the clock wrong. It didn't matter at all. They like let it run for like 3 more seconds after the ref's whistle sounded, and he's like, do you know who I am? I went to this gym. I want more respect. You guys are messing up the entire clock. And the varsity coach walks in. He's like, we know who you are. And says all this stuff. And they get into a verbal argument. And we're all like, oh, this is going down. And it turns out our coach was a complete scrub for the Catholic, not for the Catholic school that we were rivals with. So there's no point in saying, oh, I went there. The coach probably barely remembers your first name. He just remembers you because you used to hand out waters to him during the game. But our coach actually, his brother was part of like the greatest art heist in like the nation. I don't know. They made a movie about him, so that was something interesting about our coach. But what I liked about our coaches, our practices would just be full scrimmages for an hour. We wouldn't do anything to get better, any plays. It would just be straight scrimmages, and we had a good season too. Now, my favorite moment as a player from my freshman year was we were playing in this like round robin tournament thing, and I didn't play it all the first game, and coach was like, all right, since you bottom 5 didn't play it all, we'll make it up for you this game. So he starts us all 5, and we immediately go down like 10-0. He benches us all, but he feels bad, so he one by one puts us in at a time. I'm like the third kid he puts in, but it just happens to be right before the half. So I go in. It's like 30 seconds left. We have the ball. He's like, one shot. So I cut to the basket, catch the ball on the baseline. It's like, probably like the mid-range baseline area. So I kick it back out because I'm like, I'm not gonna shoot it. I just got in the game. But I pass it out to the wings, and then I cut back up to the top because I have zero basketball IQ. I come back to the top. He doesn't have a shot. I wasn't even looking. He passes me the ball. It hits off my hand. I look up at the clock. We have like 2 seconds. I just catch the ball. Don't even look where I am. Shoot it up. Fade away. It swishes at the buzzer from probably the volleyball line. And I get to half court, and I just go, ah! I let out a giant scream, and everyone starts laughing at me. I'm like, oh, this is embarrassing because we were already down by a good amount of points. It didn't matter. And here's me, this bench player, just hits his first ever buzzer beater. He's going crazy at half court like we just won the game. So that kind of killed my confidence for that game. But I actually went in, I started the second half, went and hit 2 more threes to start off. And then on the third possession, I'm cutting down to the I cut down to the paint, looking for a layup. I don't get it. I start to run out. I slip on like probably sweat where the refs didn't mop it up or something, and just my elbow goes right into the ground. I'm like, Coach, I think I broke my elbow. So he subs me out. Like, come look at it. There's nothing wrong with it. He just sits me down. I don't play for the rest of the game. So my best freshman game ended off with me faking, with me just hurting my elbow and me getting subbed out midway through the third, not even midway through a minute into the third quarter. And that's probably the most time I ever got in a game in freshman year. It's probably 5 or 6 minutes in a game. And so out of my 6th, 7th, 8th, and ninth grade, I probably got 30 real minutes, but somehow my 12th grade year, or not my 12th, my sophomore year, I was able to play varsity just because I had gone through that kind of pecking order, and all the starters on my freshman team had quit besides two players. So it was just me and this other bench warmer who I'm really good friends with. Just me and him who are going to play varsity besides for the two starters on freshmen who are going to get real varsity minutes. So my first year in varsity, our team is insanely good. And it was kind of like just like an honor to be there. Like, that's how I looked at it. I was like, I'm just blessed to be here. I don't care. I'm not playing. I'm just, I'm handing out waters. I'm handing out waters to the best players in the state and even the country. We have players ranked in the country on our team. So I'm just handing out them waters. I'm like, I'm just blessed to be here, guys. I'm just glad you guys know my name. So I'm in practice. I'm still like a decent shooter. I'm not like anything good. I'm probably average as a varsity player, and my like number one thing is shooting. So there's like nothing special about my game. There's no reason for coach to play me. So I'm just along for the ride. Now, as a bench player, we take heat sometimes for no reason because, the coach, we lose a big game. They're screaming at all of us, but you're sitting there like, I didn't do anything, but I feel bad because the coach is still screaming his head off at you. Now, when me and my friends were on the bench, we were losing. We were up by like 50, and our coach was like, her best player like turned the ball over. He spikes the pen on the ground, and like all these shards go everywhere, and I get cut by a shard of pen, and the other another piece of the pen goes into another bench warmer's eye. So we're over here bleeding and crying, not like legitimately crying, but like tears are just going down his eye because he got nailed with plastic in his eye. And we did nothing wrong. We're up 50. We should probably be in the game right now because our rule is always, if we're up by 35, we're getting it. Anything below that, we're not. Anything above that, of course, we're going to get it. But 35 was the benchmark for getting in, and it was always 2 minutes. If we're by 35 with 2 minutes, we're getting in. So my first bucket as a sophomore, as a varsity player, we were in this classic that we have in order to honor the founder of our school, and it's the first game. And we normally just bring out a bunch of players that we knew we could win because the founder is deceased, but his wife is still living, and she'd always travel up from North Carolina to come watch us play, to be a part of it. So our coach would schedule these terrible teams, and I went in. I was like, no matter what, shoot the ball. Like, that's what I went. That's what everyone else was telling me because they were like, no one cares how you do in this. So I was like, all right, I'm going to shoot the ball. So I got the ball on the wing on a fast break. There's this player literally, and like he's already guarding me. I get the ball. I just grab it, get the ball, and just sling it at the goal. It wasn't even a shot. It was just like a push. I just pushed it at the goal. It swished. I started off my varsity career 1-for-1 from three-pointers. The next game, the same thing happens, except it was off an inbounds. I was wide open, and I shot it. I started off 2-for-2, and I led the state in three-point field goal percentage. After my first 2 appearances in a varsity game, I led the state in three-point field goal percentages. Like, they showed me, like, they looked up my name, and they showed me I was shooting 100%, 2-for-2 from 3. So the third game, actually, I'm feeling myself. It happens again. I airballed two in a row. I'm shooting, so I was like, oh, I lost the power. But that was the only minutes I saw my sophomore season were just straight garbage time. But our team was so good that I actually got in a lot more than I did most of my junior year, to be honest, because we'd win we probably had an average of 40-point wins because we had 365 players, 365 plus players. One or two of them were D1. One of them was NAIA. So we had three college guys on our team. So we were just blowing guys out. So this year, the 12th to 11th grade year, was probably one of my biggest jumps. Was probably the biggest jump from that point as a player, because I was like, all right, there's all the good players are leaving. It's my shot. It's my chance to, get some action on varsity. But it wasn't like super realistic because we had six seniors on the next team. But I was like, oh, we're losing two of our best players. There's maybe a chance I shake things up. So I spent the summer working on my shot and working on my stamina. I ran a lot. I shot a lot. I kind of worked on my ball handling. But it was mostly just wanting to get good at one particular thing. Because if you're good at one thing, the coach is going to play you. Like, if you're good at rebounding, you'll get minutes on varsity. If you're good at bringing the ball up and having good passes, you'll get in on varsity. If you're good at just shooting, if you're just a hustle guy, if you just give 110% every play, you'll get in. If you're just good at one thing, you'll get minutes in a varsity game. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna focus on shooting. So the entire summer, I'm just working to be I wanted to be the best shooter on the team, because I wanted to, walk into the gym after summer was over, the first day of practice, and be like, and name the best shooter on the team and be like, oh, I'm better than them, I'm better than them, I'm better than them. Now, was that realistic? Probably not. Whenever I walked into the gym that day, I probably was the fourth best shooter on the team. But, I was okay with that, because before that, I was probably the 10th best shooter on the team. Just by going up those 6 spots, it made me feel like a better player. Now, my junior year we started off pretty good, but I wasn't playing at all still. It wasn't until, I was doing my thing in practice, though. I was hitting shots, just a discussion because I wasn't getting in. I remember this one time, we were getting ready for a very big game. And this team were in a specific defense or specific offense, where the bench warmers would run that offense and the main players would have to guard it. And where I was in the offense at that particular time was where the non-shooter was at. But I just wanted to shoot the ball anyways. Whenever I got it, I shot it, and I hit like 5 shots in a row. There was one time I remember the player was guarding me. His hand, I was shooting it, and his hand was in between it, and he hit the ball up, but I was able to catch it and still shoot it all in the air, and it went in. And after that shot, the head coach, he blows his whistle, he goes, Aaron! I look up, I'm like, am I finally going to get my shot to go to the blue team, which is like the main guys? And he goes, get out. This player, get in. And he's like, the next player, get in. Because I was supposed to be shooting. And everyone started laughing, because they were like, because I looked like I was about to, like I was already taking off my jersey. I was flipping it around. But the coach just completely finessed me. It was 100% finesse, because I thought, everyone actually thought that I was going to get put on the blue team. But, the coach, he finessed me. But it wasn't until, it was probably 3/4 through the way this season, we were playing probably the biggest game of the year, to be honest. We were playing at our rivals' gym again, packed gym, because they're always the biggest games. The gym's probably at full capacity. And I was sitting on the bench. I was like, oh, another game, another, 45 minutes of sitting on the bench at a time. I'm just chilling there, getting ready to hand out waters, handing out high fives. I used to actually count how many high fives I could get in a game, just because like I need a stat to try to beat, try to be impressed with, because we all knew I was gonna need 8 minutes until this game, and I have no clue why the coach put me in still, but he was getting mad. We were down, and he calls my name. And at first, I didn't know who he was talking to because I never heard the coach call my name before. And all the players like they had to say it like 2 or 3 times, and then the players like get in, get in, get in. So I like ran down the checking. I ran down to check in, and I ended the game, and I have to go stand in front of the opposing team student section, and they're all like, "Eat a cheeseburger." I remember this particular school, already. This school had the #1 quarterback in the state. They're standing right in the middle of their student section. He was like the leader of the student section. I stand right in front of him, and he just goes, "Number 34, eat a cheeseburger." And I'm standing there, and other kids are like, "Who are you? Why are you in the game?" I'm like, I don't even know I'm in the game either. Like, I don't know why I'm here. But I was there, and this game actually really boosted my confidence because my parents weren't at the game. My parents didn't go to this game. They were busy. I don't even know what they were doing. My dad turns on his phone. They live stream the games, and he's like, he told me, he's like, "Why is Aaron in the game?" So, that's a real confidence booster when your parents don't know why you're in the game. Your parents aren't even there for your first real varsity minutes. Now, on a more serious note, there's actually a moment in this game where it did boost my confidence because our star player, who is a big D1 player, he's the highest recruit ever to go to his college or whatever. He drives out, and I'm wide open. I'm like waiting. I'm not calling for the ball because it's him and I'm me, but I want the ball. I'm set, and and he puts it up, and he gets fouled. And before he's shooting, the teacher's like, "Have you ever passed the ball before? Aaron's wide open." And that kind of got my confidence because my coach had more confidence in me to shoot that ball than it did for him to go drive it. And even though he got fouled, but that kind of instilled some confidence in me. Now, I started to play more games more. I wasn't getting any shots. Not much shot. I wasn't getting any opportunity, really. I was just there as like a secret weapon. Is what it felt like. Or like, oh, in case he's wide open, I'll shoot it. Now, it was when I really took it advantage of the opportunity was the first district game. It was the district tournament. It was the first game of the district tournament, and I already knew I was gonna get in, but no one like expected me to go in and put any shots up or whatever. My student section, my student section for my school, they were still like, "Why is he in the game?" Their student section still like, "Who is this guy?" The coaches, I definitely was never on a coach's scouting report ever. So I entered the game. The coach is definitely like, "Why is this kid in the game? What's he going to do?" 30 seconds into this game, this is probably the biggest game. This is definitely the biggest game of the year so far because if you lose, the season's over. So the coach had a bunch of trust in me that I wouldn't blow for the 6 other seniors on the court. So I go in, fast break. The star player of our team finds me in the corner. I shoot it without even thinking. Like, I didn't even know what happened. It went in. I'm like, that just happened. So that was my first real points as a varsity player. Real minutes, real shot. It was big. It was a big time shot because it pulled us within 2 in the second quarter. The next play, or the next possession, they pressed us, and they found me again in the corner, and I'm ready to shoot. And this team's big man, who's like 6'7", super long. I didn't see him on me, so I pulled a shoot, and I had to alter my shot in midair so he didn't block it. And it was such an air ball, and it was so embarrassing because he had the opposing crowd, air ball, and I'm just me. I don't even know I'm on the course still, and I'm like, oh, that just happened. So that really makes your confidence from here to below rock bottom. So, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to get in for this game because I just blew it or whatever. But then, it was the third quarter. The coach puts me in again, midway through the third. They're running a 2-3, it was a 3-2, which I love because I can just stand in the corner and there's a lot more opportunity for me to shoot because if you just, reverse the ball, reverse the ball, reverse the ball, you're going up in the corner. I get the ball in the corner, and before we go out, well, actually, let's go back. Before or after we had our talk in the locker room, the assistant coach comes to me. He's like, "Hey, even though that was not a good shot, get ready to shoot still." So I'm like, "Okay, okay." The coaches still haven't given up on me. So I go in the game. They find me open in the corner, and I let that thing fly. And I've never since then had a better swish. Realistically, that ball was straight in. And that felt so good because I had our student section behind me. They're going nuts. They're like, "Oh, we don't even know his name and it went in." So that felt really good. And I was like, "Oh, I'm the guy. I did that. I had 6 points in a real game." Now, the funny thing is I only won by 5. So, you can imply some stuff that I was thinking about myself, I'm kind of feeling myself. But the next game, I didn't play at all. I didn't get a single minute. I didn't see the court at all. And I was confused. I was like, what happened? Like, did I do something wrong? Did I say something? Did I, not, do something right in practice? The coach just goes up to me, and instead of, telling me, I was like, oh, he's going to tell me why I didn't get in. He's like, we could have got here without you. And I'm like, that's the best thing I've ever heard. That's better than, him telling me, he loves me or whatever. Oh, that's kind of weird. That's better than him telling me anything ever. That's better than if he was Coach K called me, was asking you about him. He's like, we couldn't have got here without you. So I'm going up. I'm like, I'll go to my friend. And he's like, guess what he told me? I'm like, he told me that we wouldn't be here without him. And this friend that I told, the year before this year, or our sophomore year, he had 14 points as a sophomore in a huge region game. And he didn't play at all the next game, and he's like, "Oh, he told me the same thing." So I was like, "Oh, because I'm nothing special then." He's like, he tells everyone that. So great feeling at first. It didn't end up to actually be that good. I didn't play at all for the rest of the year. That was the end of my junior year, but my junior year I feel like was a big success because I finally got some real minutes in a game. Now, off-season junior year, my two friends, they're like, the kid that I went and told about the coach thing, he had been playing for an AAU team, and my bench warmer friend his dad was going to sponsor it, so they went up to me and they're like, "Hey, you want to play for the AAU team?" It's basically guaranteed you get on as long as you show up to tryouts. So I go to tryouts. I had a decent tryout. I didn't do anything much, but we didn't do anything at the tryout. That was the thing. There was a group full of guys. They were all pretty good basketball players. They're all really good basketball players, actually. This team is a really good AAU team, a predominant AAU team. So we had a tryout. They did 1-on-1 and 3-on-3 things. And they did shooting drills, but nothing where you could gauge how good a player is at all. Nothing the base, an entire season off of. So I was like, oh, I guess I just made the team because it's they told me it was guaranteed. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't try super hard or whatever. So I go in. After the tryout, I'm like, okay, we're good. He's like, well, I'll call you everyone and let you know if you made it or not. So he actually calls me, but I didn't see it. And I texted my friend. I was like, hey, did the coach call you? He's like, no, he texted me that I made the team. To both of them. I was like, oh, great. Why didn't he send me a text? Why did he call me? So I call him. He's like, we didn't just see much out of you. We didn't see any reason for you to be on the team. And I was like, oh. I was just so confused because I thought I didn't tell him this, but I was like, oh, I'm sorry. He's like, I'm sorry, but you can be a practice player if you want. That just means you go to practice and you wouldn't go to tournaments with us. I was like, why would I ever do that? I'm not going to let your players get better. I'm not going to get better as a player. I'm not going to invest time in your team when I'm not getting anything out of it. So I was just so confused. I'm like, why did I make the team when, one, we didn't do anything in trials to show that anyone was better than another player, and two, I thought I was guaranteed to be part of the team. That's why I tried out in the first place. I wasn't going to try out until they told me that I was basically guaranteed to be on the team. They're like, oh, it's going to be super fun, us three on the team or whatever. I would have never tried out if I was told that, you're actually going to be trying out against real players because my mindset going in from junior to senior year was I want to have my biggest jump yet. I want to be ready for senior year and I want to get looked at by colleges. So, because I still hadn't proved anything as myself as a player besides that one district game, which was only 6 points if you think about it. Like, only 6 points. No player is ever going to get looked at by averaging 6 points a game, but it was just more of a confidence boost for me. So going into my senior year, I worked out probably twice a day, shooting, running, working out, getting into this point as a player where I knew I was by far the best player, like the best shooter on the court. That's all I wanted to be. It went from being the top three shooter on the team to wanting to be the best shooter on the team. I wanted to be the best shooter on the court, and the entire crowd knew that. I also wanted to get to a point where colleges would come look at me and be like, "Yeah, this guy's legit." So I went into the next this by not making that AAU team. It motivated me to a point where I wanted to be better than the players on the AAU team that made it over me, so the coaches would look back at it and see that I made it and made a career out of made a high school career, and they didn't see anything in me. Which is the funny thing about it is one of the main coaches on the team. He's the Bible coach at my school, and he actually ended up being the assistant coach for my team this year. And after before my season started, he was like, but he saw like an improvement in my game or whatever. So that kind of like he was like, I'm sorry how everything went this way, but I still like had some bad blood. I felt like because I was like, I didn't make the team. You were probably, a reason for that. I didn't make the team, so I was like, there was kind of beef, but we ended up settling it out. I'm really good friends with him now. We have a really good relationship, but it was kind of like awkward at first because I did not like him, but it was just weird because they knew I had bad blood and they knew I was mad about it. So it was just awkward. It was an awkward experience, but what made it the most, what made not making the team working out the most feel so good was when they tweeted out on Twitter. They tweeted on Twitter like, hey, like all the players that made at college level or whatever, they were like, oh, look at how many players on our roster made at college level. And it felt good that none of the players went like super high. Like a player who played for them is even going to the same college that I'm playing and play basketball for. None of the players went like super high D1. They were all players that I could compete with. I'm going to the similar college as them. And that felt good for me because I knew that I had done what I needed to do in order to be the player that I was able to become. Because if I would have made that AAU team, there's no way I would have made the jump I needed to make. Because I would have been content with making that AAU team. I wouldn't have gotten that much better. But by not making it, I freed up so much time in my summer that I was able to grind every single day and get better. Now, going off of that, I don't think that I should have made the team at all. I definitely wasn't prepared. And my entire opinion on AAU is if you're not going to play significant minutes and you're not good enough for colleges to look at you, I don't think you should play AAU. If your number one goal is, I'm going to play AAU to have fun and go to a hotel or whatever this, but you're serious about basketball, don't play AAU. You just need to work out. Because AAU is only for people, or should be only for people who either want to get looked at by colleges or are getting a bunch of minutes and they're just looking to play basketball competitively in order to stay in shape for the next season. If you're not getting any minutes on an AAU team, there's no business being there. The shoes, the gear, the clout, if there's any, does not matter when it comes to, the next season, because I didn't play any AAU and I still was able to get looked at by a few colleges because I was able to make myself that better for high school. I see no problem if you want to play in college and you're good enough to play AU to play AU. But there's no reason to play if you're, only going in with garbage minutes, because you could spend that time working on your craft. Now, transitioning, I just spent that much time talking about my journey. Transitioning, I was going to talk about the NBA, but I'm not anymore. I'll say that for the next episode. We're going to start off, we're going to do every single podcast that I have a guest on. We're going to do the 5 greatest shooters of all time. Now, for baseline, here are my 5 greatest shooters of all time. Number 1, or no, we'll do 5 to 1. Number 5, I have Larry Bird. Larry Bird, just the stories of him shooting, just watching film on him shoot, even though he didn't have the best three-point stats, his mid-range was money, and the three-pointer didn't even get brought into the league until his rookie year. So he had no real experience with the three-point line. So why would he shoot it if he didn't know, if he had no experience with it? But he still was able to put up good three-point numbers, especially for that time. Number 4, I have Reggie Miller. Reggie Miller is one of the most clutch players of all time. He's a great shooter. Second all time in three-pointers made. He shot 44% from 3 as a career from 3, which is insanely good, especially at the NBA level. Third, I have Klay Thompson. He's cash, most efficient player in the league. It might be ever, to be honest, because he dribbles the ball 12 times a game and puts up 60 points. How can he even do that? He's definitely the 3rd best shooter of all time, which is crazy because, we'll find out later. 2, I have Ray Allen, knockdown. He's absolutely money. Shot 40. Right now he's 1st all time, but we all know Steph Curry's going to beat him. 1st all time in three-pointers made. And, of course, number 1 is Steph Curry. Not saying Steph Curry is the greatest shooter of all time is honestly ridiculous, because right now he's only in his 11th season and he's already made 2,100 3-point field goals. It took Ray Allen 18 seasons to hit 2,700, something like that. And he can do it. He's on pace to beat it in the next 2 years with 5 more seasons still to go in order to match Ray Allen's. So there's no way. If you just look at Steph Curry, the way he shoots, he's so efficient. His shot is so smooth. There's no way for you not to think that Steph Curry is the greatest shooter of all time. He's just too good of a basketball player, too good of a shooter. And honestly, it makes me upset when people like Reggie Miller compared Steph Curry to his dad and put him 5th all time. That's just letting your ego get the best of you, to be honest. Now, to wrap up this great first podcast, it's been a lot of me talking, but we're going to end it with the meme of the week. And the meme of the week is by far Lou Williams. It doesn't get any more funny than a player who's not allowed to leave his NBA bubble breaking the rules in order to get wings from a strip club. You can't make that up. He's supposed to be quarantined. He's going to get suspended. He's supposed to get suspended if you break the regulations of the bubble. He broke the rules of the bubble in order to get wings from a strip club. He's a major part of his team, of a championship team, and he broke those rules. It sounds like someone made it up. And what's even funnier is Alex Caruso skipped his sister's wedding in order to stay in the bubble, and he means a lot less to the Lakers than Lou Williams means to the Clippers. It might be one of the most savage things to happen in recent NBA history, at least, because this man risked so much just to go to the club with Jack Harlow and get wings. That's the next level of not caring. And that is why Lou Williams is my favorite basketball player. If you made it to this point in the podcast, thank you so much. I'm going to be doing a podcast every week. The next one probably going to be with a few guests in order to spice it up a little bit. So stay tuned, and always remember 3 is greater than 2. Thank you.